Welcome back to C3 Mods, episode 9. Today is tips and updates. Welcome back, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about some things that I didn't get to cover very well in some of the earlier videos. On the table behind me, I have a bunch of items I'm going to talk to you about that will make your life easier, make your project go a lot smoother. And it's things that you can actually use in the future on some of your other vehicles. So first of all, let me talk to you about this. This is an industrial fan. This is what I'm going to put in front of the radiator condenser area when I charge my air conditioning system, which we'll be going over later on in the month as a separate video. I got a Cozy Vac brand set of gauges, comes with a vacuum pump, all the fittings, everything you need. Amazon is relatively inexpensive. I think it was $135 for the kit. In addition to that, we're going to be using a digital scale so that I can get the right amount of Freon in there. So in the fuel episode, I was talking about the vinyl fuel hose and the kit that I use to do that. This is the kit right here. It's made by a company called SUR&R. I learned about it at the Napa store when I was in there for a particular reason, and I ended up getting it through Amazon. It's a very comprehensive kit. It comes with various fittings, 5/16, 3/8, and a combination thereof. You have straight, you have 90, it has unions, it has steel to steel couplers, it has steel to vinyl couplers. It comes with additional pipe to come off of factory regulators and other types of fittings to attach to. It comes with your clamps, and in the bottom section of this is where it comes with the hose. This is the 5/16. It comes with the pliers to crimp your fittings around your hose, and it comes with a cutter to cut the end of your hose off so that it's square and flush. I use the rest of the kit down here for various fittings that I want to keep together. It also comes with a 50-foot roll of the 3/8 vinyl hose, which is what I have here. And one of the reasons I did this, it was a lot easier to run. The ethanol that they run in fuel today is corrosive to mild steel and some of your other components and your aluminum. I was trying to keep some of the corrosion down to a minimum. What I did find out though is I ran the vinyl line hose down the side of the inside of the frame rail, and as you know from the earlier videos, I'm running side pipes. That caused the vinyl lining fuel hose to distort. So I ended up cutting it off at the base of the kick up where it goes over the rear wheel and up to the firewall, and I replaced it with the stainless steel hard line so that I didn't have any fire issues. So keep that in mind if you're going to run full exhaust or side pipes where your heat sources are on your car. In addition, being an LS3, one of the other videos I mentioned that I'm running the Vintage Air Front Runner kit. I didn't mention in the video, but the Front Runner kit does come with a Detroit Speed power steering pump. And being the LS, it came with an ATI harmonic balancer. And this is a kit, it's made by Gear Wrench. I was able to use that to install the pulley on the power steering pump. In addition to that, I purchased an LS harmonic balancer tool. You can actually rent these. I was planning on doing that, and I was in my local speed shop, and I happened to notice that he had one for 40 bucks. So I thought I'd just go ahead and purchase one for myself. The procedure for removing and installing that dampener is completely different than your typical small block Chevy or Ford or even Mopar. And if you don't have the right tool, you're going to have difficulty, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're probably going to damage something. So I highly recommend purchasing that for your LS. In addition, I mentioned in my suspension issue that I have Vet Brakes and Products transverse leaf springs in the car. They have grease skirts on the spring blocks, and they're actually between the spring and the frame rail, and I had a hard time getting into them, and I needed something with a 90-degree angle on it. If the flex hose wouldn't even work, I needed something rigid, and this kit is another kit that I got off of Amazon that allowed me to do that. You can use it on all your other cars. So my car's not really a show car. but I like it to look nice. One of the things that I did under my hood is I bought ARP stainless steel 12-point bolt kits. I think one was from a small block Chevy, one was a big block Chevy. I use them for my anal clamps. One of the reasons I chose that is doing my research, I knew that the Vintage Air Front Runner kit also uses the 12-point stainless steel ARP bolts in SAE and metric, because there's both types of threads on that kit. And I thought it'd be nice if it matched it, it dressed the car up a little bit, and it wouldn't look like everything was so mismatched. Over here, this blue box, this is a GM Weather Pack kit that I bought. I got this from Napa many years ago. Unfortunately, the part number doesn't cross, but up here it gives all the part numbers for all of the OEM fittings, connectors. It actually gives a part number for a 25-pack kit and a part number for a 5-pack kit. And this is what I use to do all of the GM Weather Pack connectors on my car. You can still find those kits readily available in most of your auto parts stores, chain auto parts stores, and if you can't, you can order them. So talking about the GM Weather Pack connectors, I got most of my housings from the junkyard. You just go into your local junkyard with a pair of dikes and you can start cutting all these off. There's I have 4 pins straight. You make sure you get the male and the female. There's 4 pin square. There's 1 pin. There's 2 pin. And for those that you can't find or those that you don't have enough of, you can go down to your local Napa or CarQuest box and they can sell them to you. This is a box of 10 3-pin connectors. I use them extensively underneath the car and the firewall. So for those of you that don't think you have the proper tools or the skill to do the GM Weather Pack connectors, this is a wire terminal tool kit here. This comes with all of your necessary terminals to get those factory wire connectors apart. This is what I use for the GM Weather Pack. It's a hollow round tube. Slide it over the male and the female end, and it depresses the lock pins that hold it in the housing. You pull the wire out from the back and slide right out. It even has a handle on the back that you can use. You just pull it off and move it around to these little indentations here, and it clips back on. So really, it's not that difficult. Little practice, you can do it yourself. In the fuel and exhaust issue, I talked about the Thermotech high heat wrap and paint. This is the paint right here. It says it's good for up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it actually gives a nice uniform look to the underside of the compartment where your pipes are. In addition, you heard me talk about Corvette America extensively in the interior video, and one of the things they offer is the dye that they use on your interior panels. The kick panels that I made for the speakers specifically, they were just black kick panels. They were old kick panels I had lying around, and I didn't want to order new ones because I was going to cut these up, and if it went south, then I wasn't out the cost of new kick panels. But they ended up working out for me, and they were in pretty good condition. So I ordered blue, and they have a matte clear, and they have a prep agents as well. You just go ahead and clean them up, prep them, and you can paint the rest of your interior parts to match. I use this also on the rear window carrier behind the seats for the rear window. I painted the whole thing blue to match the interior as well. It's also nice to have if later on down the years things start to get scratched up or nicked, you can go ahead and touch them up, and you'll have the paint available at hand. Well, we're here on the inside of the car, and I hope you'll excuse the mess. I'm having a problem with my air conditioning system. I'm not getting signal to the compressor, but I did want to show you a few things in here while the car was torn apart. When I wired my car, I made sure that I routed everything as cleanly and as neatly as I could. And here you'll see this is the Vintage Air harness system. This is my red is my power, and these 2 whites are my ground. So it's a standalone system with the exception of those wires right there. Power and ground is all you need to hook up to your car, and the rest is functions by itself. This is the fuse breaker that it has for it, and up here you can also see this is the fuse for my power windows And over on the other side, this is the relay for my power windows. These two relays here are the relays for the wiring harness that I made for the cowl wiper door system. And over here you can see this is the new shift plate from ShiftWorks to turn that into a 4-speed shifter. Also on the interior issue, I was telling you about the modifications I made to the ends of my dash pads because the later model consoles go forward. You don't have to mix and match these. The only reason that I did that is because I bought my 69 dash pad panels before I bought this center console, and I didn't know the difference. So keep that in mind. If you're gonna delete the fiber optics, you can get a later model console and the matching side panels. And if you'll notice, the later models have the stitching here, and the panels that match them have the stitching that actually go up here. And I don't have that because, again, I bought these before I bought this console. So you don't have to do the modifications on all the panels if all your panels match. And while we're here, this is a radio plate. There's a lot of companies that make radio plates out, and I don't like them. At the time that I did this, nobody made a radio plate. Everybody just hacked up the original center console portion. This is aluminum, aircraft grade aluminum, and I actually got the opening for the DIN radio off the specifications for the radio, and I took this to a machine shop, and I had them stamp it out on a drop hammer, and I ended up having them bend the angles, and I drilled the 4 holes and used countersunk screws to mount that flush. All of the other panels that I have seen are cheap plastic, and I just think it gives it a cheap look to the inside of the car. So if you got some time and you know some companies around that would help you out with that, I think, this was done 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and they charged me $100, and that was a lot of money back then to get it done, but I was able to retain it with this car, and I just think it looks a lot better. In addition, if you can see the bolts around the shifter well, the original Corvettes, OEM Corvettes, had a rubber well. I took that rubber well and I used it as a pattern, and I made a steel well for it. Originally, if you may have recalled, this was a 4-speed car, and I converted it to automatic. And I believe the reason that GM used the rubber well was because it was easy. It was probably cheap to manufacture, and it was easy to throw in there. But over time, they dry, they crack, and they start letting heat through into the console. And at the time before I took this car apart, while I was driving, if I laid my leg up against this console, it would actually burn it because this got so hot from the 4-speed rubber boot being deteriorated. So that's one of the other updates that I did to my car that's gonna keep the interior cool as well. So over here, I mentioned earlier, this is where all the computers are. This is the ECM for my car. I brought it in here to keep it out of the heat. It's out of the weather. It's drier in here. And behind it, if you can see, is my Dakota Digital Cruise Control, because the cruise control, with the exception of power and ground, has a wire harness that comes out that goes to the pedal, and then it has a wire harness that comes from the stock and goes to that ECU right there. So by having it inside the car, I can just run the wires, and in a short period of time, that's hooked up and ready to go. So on the interior issue, I talked about my 2-door storage compartment. One of the things that I may not have mentioned, but I believe I had one of the photos was I had to cut this back firewall down in order for that to work properly. It fit, but the molded on finger grabs for the doors would hit, and I didn't really mind it. I actually like it cut down. It's a lot easier to get stuff in and out of there. I just used a straight pneumatic shear. I marked it, and I went across from one end to the other, and I just used a die grinder in the center. You can use a die grinder to cut the whole thing off, but I got tired of throwing metal shavings all over the inside of the car while I was trying to finish it up. Here's another thing that I made sure that I did. This is your water channel here. The problem that a lot of Corvettes have is this is missing or rotted. Some of them in the later model years are 2 pieces. This is 1 piece. It's actually molded around, I would believe it's probably an aluminum base to gives it that rigidity and that form. And this is where your water will run to the front of your door and down here and out, instead of falling down here, running on top of your sill, and then it goes through these bolt holes and on top of your frame rail and creates rust. Back here, I also used a later model C3. This is called a water diverter, if you end up looking it up on a company's website, so that your water comes down here from the channel, it runs down here, and instead of going in on the carpet, like most Corvettes, it hits this water diverter and it runs out down to the side. And that will definitely keep the majority of water out of your car. One of the other things I was able to do, if you can see down here, I was able to modify my hood hinges, and I ground the pins out, and I used my own setup. I used bronze bushings, and I got pins with holes and clevis pins that are stainless from Ace Hardware, and these are actually removable. I have a removable hood for my hinges now. I can rotate that clevis pin and pull it out, and I have enough room back here I can push that pin through, and I do the same on the other side, and I can remove my hood without having to unbolt the hinges. That way, when I need to put it back on, everything lines up perfectly. Here's the passenger side. You can see I have enough room back there that I can go ahead and push those pins back. They're not going to come out, but they'll clear the hole on the outside portion of the hinge. So these are just some of the things that you can do if you get a little bit creative, you have a little bit of time on your hand, and if you have to take your hood on and off, it'll make your life a lot easier. So I have an appointment to take the car to the dyno chassis shop here in a couple weeks. One of the things that the owner told me was to get rid of that K&N intake assembly I had. He said it wasn't necessarily garbage, but it wasn't working for this car. So this is the new Sickie brand air intake that I got, 4 inches. Comes with all the hardware you see there, comes with the filter. The MAP sensor boss was already pre-welded. It's aluminum. It came painted like that, which is actually ironic because it matches all of the other cast iron gray that I have in the engine compartment. So we'll see how that works out in a later episode that I'm going to do at the chassis shop. Hey, well, that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope some of those ideas will help you with your project and make your life a lot easier. Join us next week. Thanks.